Meanwhile, the solar industry says the urgency for alternative energy has dropped as load shedding is no longer a consistent feature. The sector, which benefits from cash flow in the one-time payments on installation, says solar projects have decreased nationwide. This follows a surge in demand at the height of South Africa's energy crisis, along with the rising electricity tariffs. DLO Energy Resources Group CEO Linda Mabhena-Olagunju speaks to us about this. Thank you so much for giving us your time this afternoon. I think maybe let's first start with how much of a dramatic drop are we seeing? It's only been about 120 days of no load shedding.
Thanks for having me. I think it's very important to make the distinction between the solar industry and in particular the types of companies that would be impacted. So you'd see definitely a drop in demand from your domestic users. So that is your domestic solar or rather solar systems that are installed for the home. But if you're talking utility scale solar systems, as you would be aware, we have an independent producer program in South Africa for renewable energy. And that program is predetermined by the Ministry of, Electricity now, Energy and Electricity. And that is set, how that department procures power is set out for an extended period of time. So there hasn't been a decrease in utility scale solar, but there certainly has been a decrease in the demand by end users at a domestic level.
Given that dwindle in demand and that at this rate we are, as South Africans, quite hopeful and optimistic that load shedding will stay at bay and we will have consistency in energy, how much of that has been factored in the industry to indicate that maybe alternative energy is no longer so much of an urgent need?
I have to disagree with that analysis because you need to understand the driving factor behind getting clean energy is multifaceted. Number one, it's tariff-based as well. So one thing that customers appreciate is the fact that we are able to set our tariffs for a 20-year period, and it's a predetermined tariff that's set out in the power purchase agreement. As you would have read as well and seen in the media, Eskom is looking for a tariff increase of between 12.7%, which may end up being more realistically a 13% tariff increase in the coming months. So you are likely to see an increase in your utility power generation. And also, I think it's important to demystify this myth that there's a competition between IPPs and Eskom. Eskom still holds the bulk or the only base load in this country currently. So IPPs are currently not competing with Eskom for base load. We are only providing the renewable energy sources, which still constitute less than 10% of what this country uses from an electricity perspective. So I think it's important to see us as complementary to what the state utility is doing. The state utility still plays a critical role to the lives of many South Africans and South African businesses. And our sector is there to help in terms of supplementing the efforts that are currently being made. So we're not for load shedding to continue in order for our businesses to thrive. Yeah. We see our businesses as complementary to what Eskom is already doing. And we are aware that, some customers will prefer the cheaper tariffs that we offer.
And it's on that point of the cheaper tariffs that speaks to one of the reasons why I posed that question in that particular manner, because affordability, be it at a household level or commercial level with regards to alternative energy, is still an issue. Would we say then that in this particular interim that it may also be an attribute when it comes to demand and maybe posing as a little bit of a relief given that we are not in the desperate need of the solar solutions that present themselves?
Again, I have to provide context for that question because there's a lot of funding that has been made available, particularly for domestic solar panels. and domestic solar systems. So for example, when the industry started a few years back, you had to bear that upfront cost as a user immediately. So it was really for the elite. Now you've got energy as a service, meaning it's almost like you're paying for it as you would a television subscription. So you're paying a monthly cost for the use of the system, and there's a maintenance plan for it, and there's that security. So from a cost perspective, again, even at a utility level, renewables is still cheaper than what a new coal build would be in today's terms. So I don't necessarily think that the price would be the driver. Perhaps for customers, there isn't that urgency anymore at a domestic level to say, I have to get this system installed. But you also need to understand there's different types of users. A lot of the large industrial users started looking at ways to have a backup system for themselves in their businesses and in their organizations. So what you've seen as well is a decrease in demand for the Eskom electricity from what would have been called their premium clients who were utilizing their services. And you're going to continue to see that not only because of availability, but because of cost and pricing.
As a parting shot, I must also ask you about the tariffs that are imposed on imports with regard to solar and the infrastructure there. Does it bode well for the local industry? And it's one of the issues that the new minister, Parks Tau, has indicated that it's going to be part of what forms the status quo, at least for now, to boost the localization in the sector.
This is a brilliant question because last year, South Africa imported 17 billion rands worth of solar panels. And imported, not exported. And that's a very big problem for a mature renewable energy market such as ours. At this stage, we should have built local manufacturing capacity that is able to export to other parts of the African continent. We haven't done that. And we need to find ways to make sure that we are actually producing some of the goods that are used in the renewable energy sector if we have the intention as a country to provide jobs, long-lasting jobs in this sector. Right now, the jobs that are created are during construction. And as we all know, construction is for a set period of time. We need to then be creating long-term jobs. And the only way to do that is to make sure that, one, we own the technology, we have a manufacturing base, we're building local capacity in terms of engineering, and also we're building a pipeline of projects to be able to feed this local manufacturing and the products produced into that. And we're also making sure that export to the continent is easy and seamless and affordable.
Thank you so much for your contribution, DLO Energy Resources CEO Linda Mabhena-Olagunju, speaking to us about developments within the solar installation side of the South African market.